My name is Amma, and for a long time, my world was mostly about the gleam of polished floors and the quiet hum of a big, empty house. I came to this country with a heart full of hope and a need to send money back home to my mother and younger sisters. Finding work wasn't easy, but then I got the job as a maid for Mr. Henderson. Mr. Henderson was a millionaire, they said. His house certainly looked like it. It was grand, with high ceilings and rooms I mostly just cleaned and tried not to feel too small in. He was a quiet man, often busy in his study or away on business. Our interactions were few, a polite good morning, Amma, or a thank you if I brought him tea. I don't think he really saw me, not beyond the uniform I wore. I was just part of the house, like the antique furniture. I missed my home fiercely. I missed the chatter of my sisters, the smell of my mother's cooking, the sound of our language. Here, everything was English, a language I learned carefully, but it never felt like my own skin. My grandmother, bless her soul, had lived in a small town in the Netherlands for many years before coming back home. She taught me Dutch. It was our special language, a secret world of stories and lullabies she'd shared just with me. It was a language that held the warmth of her hugs and the twinkle in her eyes. One afternoon, Mr. Henderson was out for a meeting. The house was still, except for the tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the hall. I was dusting the grand piano in the living room, humming a little tune my grandmother used to sing, when the phone rang. It was the private line, the one Mr. Henderson usually answered himself. I hesitated. I wasn't supposed to answer that phone, but it kept ringing, insistent. What if it was important? Taking a deep breath, I picked it up. "Hello," I said, my voice a little shaky. A man's voice, sharp and quick, started speaking in Dutch. "Ja met wie spreek ik? Is Meneer Henderson daar?" Yes. Who am I speaking to? Is Mr. Henderson there? For a split second, I was thrown. Then, without thinking, the words just came out, flowing as easily as water. "Nee, Meneer Henderson is a momenteel niet. Kan ik een boodschap aannemen?" No, Mr. Henderson is not here at the moment. Can I take a message? It felt so natural, like slipping into a comfortable old pair of shoes. My grandmother's voice seemed to echo in my ears. The man on the other end sounded surprised, but then continued in Dutch, leaving a message about a shipment. I jotted it down carefully, my Dutch just as fluent as his. We said our goodbyes, and I hung up, a small, secret smile on my face. It felt good to speak that language again, like a little piece of my grandmother was right there with me. Then I heard a sound, a soft cough. I turned, my heart leaping into my throat. Mr. Henderson was standing in the doorway of the living room, his briefcase in his hand. He must have come in while I was on the phone. His face was unreadable. I felt a flush of heat creep up my neck. Oh no! I'd answered his private line. I'd spoken in a language he wouldn't understand. I was going to be fired. All my careful work, all my hopes of helping my family were about to disappear. I stammered, "Mr. Henderson, I am so sorry." The phone, it kept ringing. I thought it might be important. I shouldn't have. He held up a hand, silencing me. He walked slowly towards me, his eyes fixed on my face. I braced myself for the reprimand. "Amma," he said, his voice quiet but different. There was a note in it I hadn't heard before. "You speak Dutch?" I nodded, my eyes downcast. "Yes, sir. My grandmother, she taught me. I am very sorry if I overstepped." He was silent for a moment, and it felt like an eternity. Then he said, "Your grandmother." "Yes, sir. She lived in the Netherlands." For a while, it was our special language. I risked a glance up at him, and that's when I saw it, the change. His eyes, usually distant and preoccupied, were soft, There was a flicker of something in them. Surprise, yes, but also something else. Interest. Sadness? I couldn't quite tell. My mother, he said, his voice a little rough. My mother was Dutch. She passed away when I was very young. I barely remember her voice. But she used to sing me lullabies in Dutch. My jaw nearly dropped. The air in the room shifted. It was like a wall I hadn't even realized was there had suddenly crumbled. He looked at the notepad in my hand where I'd written the message. Who was that on the phone? I told him about the call, reading back the message in Dutch first, then translating it. He listened, and then he smiled. A real, genuine smile that reached his eyes and crinkled the corners. It changed his whole face, made him look younger, less burdened. Double quotes, thank you, Emma, he said. That was surprisingly helpful. From that day on, everything truly did change. It wasn't a big, dramatic movie moment. It was small things, but they added up to a whole new world for me. Mr. Henderson started talking to me, not just about my duties, but about me. He asked about my grandmother, about my family back home. Sometimes, when he wasn't too busy, he'd ask me to say a few phrases in Dutch, and a wistful look would come over his face. He told me little bits about his own mother, fragments of memories he held on to. He started seeing me not as the maid, but as Amma. He learned the names of my sisters. One day he found me looking at a slightly worn photo of my family. He asked about them, and when I told him my youngest sister dreamed of being a teacher but we worried about school fees, he just nodded. A week later, he gave me an envelope with enough money to cover her fees for the entire year, calling it a bonus for exceptional service. Tears streamed down my face. It wasn't charity. It felt like understanding. The house didn't feel so big and empty anymore. It started to feel warmer. Sometimes, if a Dutch client called and he was around, he'd ask me to speak with them briefly, a proud little smile on his face. It made me feel valued, seen. That one phone call, that accidental slip into the language of my heart, had unlocked something in both of us. For him, perhaps it was a connection to a lost part of his past. For me, it was the moment I stopped being invisible. I was still Amma, the maid, who polished the floors and served the tea. But I was also AMA, the girl who spoke Dutch, the girl with a family and a story, the girl Mr. Henderson finally saw. And that truly changed everything. I still miss my home, but I don't feel quite so alone anymore. I found a little piece of belonging in the most unexpected way, all because of a language whispered from a grandmother's heart.